I have participated once with you, Mr. Zhang Weiwei, in Amsterdam, confronting globalists. And after this meeting with you, there was debates called debates of century between myself and Mr. Bernard-Henri Lévy, who is the greatest advocate of the liberal empire. And we discussed with Lévy his book, Empire and Five Kings. So in the eyes of globalists, precisely civilizational state is the main threat and the main enemy, I would say, because they think that that should be only one global civilizational state, the Western hegemony, and every other territory should be the province of this unique civilizational state based on the liberal rules, norms, and orders. So that is unipolar concept. And when we speak about China, China insists or is taken here as example of not global, not Western, not necessarily liberal, independent civilization state. That is already in direct conflict with the global empire, and China is one of the five kings against which global empire of Mr. Lévy, Fukuyama, and the West in general should fight. And when I spoke with Lévy, I have said that I don't represent only one civilizational state, one king, Russia. I represent all five, including Islamic, Persian, Chinese. But because you represent liberal empire, I don't represent one of the five. I represent all five because it is principle. It is principle of multipolarity versus unipolarity. One civilizational state equivalent to a liberal empire against few civilizational states with S at the end. And that is precisely the essence of Eurasianist philosophy, because our Eurasianism of the 20s, 100 years ago, started with declaration that Russia is not national state. Russia is civilization state. So we have our own concept of Russian civilization state that is precisely the key element, the core of Eurasianist philosophy. So we have already two civilizational states, two kings, totally formed with giant financial, economic, and demographic and political China, and growing and self-affirming more and more Russia. So two civilizational states, and in the person of Mr. Jasakram, we have the thinker, the soul, the project, the representative of third king, or maybe kings, as if we use your sub-civilizational concept of Islamic world. So we have the world, Islamic world, as we have Russian world, as we have Chinese world, Chinese cosmos, based on totally different cosmology, as you have, Mr. Jasakram, used the word. We have Russian cosmology, Christian Orthodox. We have Chinese, Confucianist, Taoist, socialist, Maoist cosmology. We have Islamic cosmology. And if we affirm such identity of civilizational state for us, we could accept easily Europe as other civilizational state among the other, not as the equivalent of the unique global necessary the hegemonic pattern. So I think we could accept easily with great joy America as civilizational state. So that is kings against empire. We are civilizational states against this global liberal world order. And I think that is precisely what is this war in Ukraine is about, what is maybe approaching, maybe not, who knows, ongoing conflict with Taiwan, because Taiwan is the part of China. Taiwan is a part of civilization state, and all partisans of multipolarity should support in that China. And naturally, globalists who try to impose their own unique decision, they defend the alternative path. So that will continue. And we are open for multiplicity, for democracy, for different opinion. We respect those who think otherwise than us. And the globalists, the partisans of liberal empire, they don't tolerate any objection. For them, everybody who is not global liberal LGBT values defender, they are totally outside of the dialogue. So that is, as Mr. Ejaz Akram has said, that is a fascism, liberal fascism. They don't, zero tolerance, cancel culture, destruction, deplatforming, killing everybody who is against global empire. That is pure racist and Nazi attitude of modern liberal globalism. And China and Russia and Islamic thinkers, we give the testimony of real tolerance. So I think the civilization state is the key concept to understand what is going on the global level in the contemporary world. I agree with every word you have said, Mr. Jiang Weiwei. It is precisely you gave precise description of this transformation, of this transition, because this special military operation is a kind of screen. So before starting of this special military operation, we could freely guess either this multipolar world order is already established or not yet. So that was about guessing, about multi-factor balance of reality, because some elements were in favor of this transition as already accomplished, or some elements were against that, because the hegemony of the West is still very, very big and very, very, very critical. So the balance was unstable. And this military operation, special military operation in Ukraine, is a kind of test, a kind of proof whether we are already living in the multipolar world order, or we are still in liberal global hegemony unipolarity. And Francis Fukuyama, you have mentioned already, has said recently in his article, very, very correct article, the name was very eloquent, the Putin's war on liberal world order. It is exactly what we have. That is Putin's war on liberal unipolar world order. So it is Russia affirms herself and starting the special military operation as a subject of global system, not object, not just periphery of global hegemony, but as a pole in itself, with its interest, with its values, with its potential, military potential, political potential. So that is why the West is so radically against Russia, because that will mean if Russia wins, or better, to put it better, when Russia wins, the world will be for sure multipolar. And that affects everybody, Europe, China in the first place, Islamic world, India, Africa, Latin America, everybody will receive a kind of legitimation to create and affirm their own pole, their own sovereignty, geopolitical sovereignty. and not just this limited and hypocritical national sovereignty, because only who can afford direct confrontation with the really existing sovereignty, full established sovereignty, and the liberal world order or hegemonic world order is precisely that. The West still insists that there's only one civilization, only one destiny, only one universal patterns. Everybody who wants to live should live exactly like the West says us to live. And if we challenge that, we need to pass through the very difficult test. And I am almost sure that after the victory of Russia, that will be unnecessary anymore for other poles, because Russia will show example how we should do that, and after that nobody will try. The West will not try to repeat the same experience, because if the West decides to, for example, to attack, for example, China or Islamic world, Russia will be with this victim of this global order. And that will mean that the rest or non-Western country are forming the camp, the field, geopolitical field of non-subordination to this liberal global order. That is about geopolitical revolution in any senses. That is the deep meaning of this special military operation in Ukraine. I think the West has succeeded in imposing the agenda, the image that Russia is going to lose, that everybody supports Ukraine, and the West is doing everything in order to stop this aggressor. So that is the main image, including in the country, that is very interesting, who still want to promote their own sovereignty. I think that is first important thing, that on the surface, on the media, on the global level, everybody supports West, humanity is against Russia, and so on. But it is not so in Russia, because Russia is more or less habituated. We have long experience to stay against everybody. During Soviet periods, during Stalin periods, during Russian Empire, we fought everybody for save our identity. And that is not unusual for us. So we could say we don't care about this great victory of global humanity supporting the West. We don't care. And that really counts. That for us really counts, because with that knowledge, we could win, we could stay true to our identity, and we could have the victory. So that is important. Second, I think that the global media don't transmit the real relations. So as long as I know, the people, including in Europe, many people support Russia because they hate really globalism, this American hegemony, the West, and so on. In the Arab world and the Muslim world, the huge support of population is on the side of Russia. So the media is obliged to say that everybody is on side on the West. But in the reality, it's something different. In China, I could not judge. It's better to address this question for Mr. Zhang Weiwei. But I think there is a kind of gap between information that is more or less on the side of the West and taken from the Western sources, and the reality of the relation and attitude of population that is quite different. So I think that informational war is not total war. It's not the whole. We have the other dimensions. And what is important, we didn't lose the war inside of Russia. Our population now, in absolute majority, is in favor of special military operation. That was an unthinkable. No protest. The total solidarity with Putin and with army. So that is I am astonished a little bit about that. It's not thanks to our own propaganda. It is just in the correspondence and resonance with Russian mood, historical mood. And I think that after our victory, this balance of already won informational war of the West, comparing with concrete loss of the real war, will produce opposite effect. So the truth will be on the silent or silenced part of the population, and we could not reduce anything to the screen, to the propaganda, to the clips. There is something other in the history in the people, and I think now that will mean the end of global empire of lie, of the Western controlled system of global propaganda, of this liberal network of warfare. In that level, they have won. On other levels, not at all, not yet. And when we have a victory, everybody will be obliged to consider how fragile is this network warfare, how shallow is this propaganda, how incapable is lie to fight against the reality. So I think that will be great resurrection of the reality and the reality check against this organized network informational system.